Action.
Hello and welcome to AGK Media. I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Younis. Thanks for joining us today. Today we got the big question. What's wrong with Forrest Fenn's treasure poem? Oops. Started with the intro.
Show's over. That was quick.
Yeah, good done. Wasn't much of a question. Hey, everybody. So this is our Friday afternoon show, and we've proposed a question, and we're going to spend a few minutes talking about what we think the answer to that question is, and then we're going to open up the phone lines so that you can share it. What I'm trying to do is, here, go like that. What's wrong with First Menstruation? Maybe it's nothing, right? But what we want you to do is, once I open the phone lines, is call and tell me why you think it's nothing. Before we get started with that, let me start some...
Housekeeping, you want towels?
Because you do want towels. So first of all, what?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
What towels are for?
Like this video, because YouTube likes it when you like our videos. Make sure you share it with your family, friends, neighborhoods, members of your neighborhood, business associates, and all your social networks so that we can
Grow the channel.
Grow the channel, because that's what we want to do. We want to grow it for you, so we have other people coming to visit us. And then finally, if you're not already a subscriber, this would be a grand time to click on that subscribe button, and when the notification bell pops up, click on that notification bell, and that way every time we announce or start a live stream, you will be informed, so you will be one of those in the know. Last but not least...
Notification bell.
Pardon me?
Notification bell.
Oh, nice. That was good. Last but not least... Down there at the bottom of the chat window is a stylized $sign. If you feel like contributing to this project in the form of a donation, please click on the, what is it called? Super Chat. Super Chat button. Yes. And it also gives you the opportunity to ask us a question. If you're in the room and you want to stay in the chat room, there's a couple of ways to do this. You can do this, because I always miss this.
So I'm not sure what you were going to say. I'll have to
ask
imagine what you were going to say.
Ask a question.
If you want to ask the question in the chat room, make sure you precede your comment or question with the @ AGK space media so that it highlights it for our viewing pleasure. And otherwise, please do text to 866-597-9901. And the phone lines will be open in just a few minutes for those live calls with you, our viewers.
Yeah. So this conversation the conversation that Shelley and I had regarding this matter comes from a couple of other conversations. One of the conversations was actually two of the conversations were the ones that we had with Sassy Sherry, where she told us about her experience finding the David Blaine Golden Orb treasure and what she went through. A little bit more of that conversation happened yesterday when we met with William Thorpe, who is the writer that's doing an article for the French Society magazine. Society it's French, it appears in France, Belgium, and he said another country, but I forgot what it was.
Somewhere they speak French.
Where they speak French. And we met with him yesterday, and he interviewed us, and we started talking about the various components of the Fenn treasure, and this topic came up again. Because whenever we visit with the writer, they always ask us not the same questions, but there's a couple of questions they ask consistently, and that is, do you believe the treasure is still out there? Do you believe it's a hoax? What do you think of the poem, et cetera, et cetera? And we feel like we've developed kind of a new, I don't know if it's new, we may have said this in the past, but an intriguing way to look at the poem. And it brought up some interesting points because of those conversations. So did I say that article will appear around July? I know that William and his photographer, Adria, I have to say my cleaning lady's name because it sounds a lot like that, will be visiting with Fenn this afternoon at 2 o'clock. And Adria will be here later this evening, the photographer. So we hope to get some feedback on how their visit with Fenn did. We'll also ask them if they allow us to share that feedback. So we're not going to share anything that they prefer that we don't share. But maybe we'll have some insights as to how Fenn is doing and things like that. I need to open up my chat window here, so just give me a second to do that so I can see what you guys are doing. And hang on a sec. Hold up and do this. All right. Should have done this before. We were a bit slow today. I was a bit slow today. Okay, so here is my thinking. Here, I don't know, is this our thinking? Can I say this is our thinking?
I don't know what you're
about
say.
to say? Okay. So here's my thinking until Shelley tells us what her thinking on the matter is. So my thinking on the matter is that that there's in the context of other searches, other treasure hunts, there's something slightly wrong with Fenn's poem, and I think it was illuminated by what Sassy said. Sassy said that she got into the David Blaine treasure late, that she's always had an interest in ciphers and puzzles and decoder rings and all these things, but she got into the Blaine treasure at a point where she said a significant portion, and I don't remember the specific numbers, and I'm not going to try to repeat them. Maybe if she's in the room now, she can say whether or not I'm describing this as accurate as she stated it. One of the things that she said is that when she finally got into the treasure hunt, the David Blaine treasure hunt, one for the Golden Orb, that a lot of the work had already been done, that there were chapters in David Blaine's book, each one contained a different cipher, and as the cipher was deciphered or decoded, depending on how you want to describe it, what resolved was a clue of some kind, and that clue could be idealized. It could be pointed at. You could figure out that clue, and you could go to it, and you could take a picture of it, and then you could take.
And there
that
was
picture.
agreement.
Right.
In that whole community,
Right.
Yes, that is the right answer.
Yeah, exactly. And so when she finally got into it, she was late into the game, but a number of these clues, a majority, I'll say, of the clues had been resolved. She came up with the last couple. She was struggling with the last one, which is the one she described as when she was driving home with her ex.
Well, she was driving home by herself on her way to pick up her son, and she saw that truck that said tattoo on it.
Oh, and then convinced her ex.
And then it sparked in her mind.
Right. So that last clue, so she could go back and put that together with the final physical location, the tree root, where she put her hand inside the tree root, and sure enough, besides a lizard, did she find something lizardy in there?
There was a lizard on top of the fake rock.
Okay, I see. Okay. So there was the fake rock and then the orb. So what intrigued me about what she was saying is that each of the clues could have been resolved by sitting at your desk and then going out and taking a look at it. Now, it happened to be in Southern California, so you'd have to, if you were in New York, resolving this. But people were having conversations about deciphering clues 1 through whatever. I don't know what the number. Let's use the Fenn playbook and say they had resolved clues 1 through 7, and what was left, and there was, like you said, agreement in the community.
Yeah. This is the answer. There was no
Right.
disagreement on what was the answer.
And then somebody would go out and determine whether or not that answer was correct, and they'd post it to the forums. So that was a characteristic that is not unique to the David Blaine treasure. That's how treasures, if you look at whiskey, tea, and whiskey...
Breakfast
tea, and bourbon. It was very similar. You could go clue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever the number was, and then you got to the last one. And people struggled the last one in the same way that they did with the David Blaine treasure. There were people that had gone to that park several times, including
but they were in the right place.
Right. Yeah.
They were within 100 feet of it.
Right.
And they knew they were right, and that they were within 100 feet of it.
And the family that found it went on one day, searched, didn't find it, and had some epiphany in the same way that Sherry had, and went back the next day and went directly to where the treasure was, where it wasn't actually the treasure, it was the what do they call it? A representation of the treasure that they had to cash in. Yeah. So what was intriguing about what she was saying and what there are about other treasure hunts is that there's ways to find out if you're right. And so I entitled this, What's Wrong with the Treasure Poem? I don't know necessarily that it's wrong. I know it's not perfect, but there is no indication inside of Fenn's treasure poem whether anyone is making progress. Because if someone was making progress, if someone identified absolutely where warm water salt, I could ask each one of the rest of the room where warm water's halt, and there would be as many opinions of what that means as there are people in the room. That was not true of the Blaine thing. When somebody posted something, I've deciphered it, it says this, and here's where you can look. There was no debate. Somebody would go look, somebody would come back and say, whoops, that's not it. But they'd refine that process until they worked it over. So there was a way to find out whether or not the community was making progress as a community. Now, that was their choice. I'm not sure necessarily that every community would make that choice. David Blaine's treasure was hidden in 2002, was found in 2004. That wasn't exactly what I would call, that was called the beginning of the internet, unless you're Al Gore. Started before that. But I know where the internet started because I was there in Washington, D.C. when it started. When it went public, 2002 was still early. We were talking in text. There were no pictures, there were no videos, there was no YouTube, there was nothing. So it was one way to communicate as a community from all over the world, and they made progress as a result of that conversation. We, on the other hand, are stuck with something who the writer himself has said, you won't know if your warm waters halt, where warm waters halt is correct, until you put the hands on your treasure. So
He's also said that people have figured out the first two clues and went right past the treasures, so there was no confirmation to them that, hey, I'm on the right track because here's the next clue and here's the next clue. They didn't know. So what's up with that?
One even has to wonder if those people, we don't know for certain, but you would have to wonder did they know for certain that they had gotten the first two clues?
I doubt it, or they would have kept looking until they found it.
Yeah, exactly.
And they stopped because otherwise they would have found it by now. Because they had the first two clues. They were in the zone.
Yeah. It strikes me that when Fenn has talked about these people that are 200 feet from the treasure or got the first two clues, he's always talking in the past, significant past. I mean, this isn't something that happened this year, last year, the year before. This is something that happened in the early stages of this, when there were significantly fewer searchers, and when he was probably taking the time to read each one of those emails. So part of it is the fact that there's a convolution of time here where he says somebody was within 200 feet of the treasure. We assume it was last month, and really it was 9 years ago. And we don't know what's happened since then. We don't know what's happened since then because we don't know why someone was within 200 feet of the treasure. There's no way, and this isn't confirmation bias, it's simple confirmation. We don't know until we find the treasure whether any one of the clues that we've come up with is correct. And I think that's what makes it so difficult. And the other day, I have often said that I felt like Fenn over-engineered the poem.
Much like the Beale ciphers, right? They only ever figured out the second cipher, and that told them what was in the treasure, but they could never, ever figure out the first one or the last one. And so it's still gone, and it's still hidden, or, it's worked its way into mythology because that came out in the 1830s.
Yeah. And you could compare it to a pirate's treasure map, because a pirate's treasure map will say, land on the shore by the big rock, head for the palm tree west of the big rock by 20 paces, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a treasure map is not like the poem. The poem is not a treasure map. The poem represents objects on the planet Earth that you should be able to recognize, that gives you some sense that you're getting closer to where that treasure is. But as I said, if I were to say, tell me what my warm waters halt is bound in the New Mexico Game and Fish or fishing regulations, there are 91 people in this room right now, and I'm willing to bet each one of them would have a different opinion on what warm waters halt. There is and that's the first clue. We don't have any confirmation that the first clue is. There was a gentleman that was on the other day or sent me an email. He says, I made the comment about warm waters can only be found in the New Mexico fishing regulations. And he kept saying, no, there's hot springs in Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. Indeed, but their warm waters can be found only in the New Mexico fishing regulations. So again, we don't have any way to confirm which one of us is correct, and we won't have any way to confirm that until somebody actually lays their hands on the treasure and decides they want to share the solution. And we've had this conversation as well. If they decide they don't want to share their solution or the location where they found the treasure, which is well within their right, which Fenn has said it would be okay with him because he's going to do what the finder wants to do, assuming that Fenn is even alive when that treasure has been recovered, we could end up finding out that the treasure has been recovered because there's an auction on eBay or Sotheby's. That could be it. And that's all we may ever be able to find out because none of us have any sense. We can never go back and say, I was right, or that's where we were searching, because there's no confirmation. So I think that's what's wrong with Fenn's poem and why we, as a community, struggle with it, because we've been debating the same topics now for 9 years. In the Blaine poem, they didn't have to do, in the Blaine treasure, they didn't have to do that. They brought it on, they'd make a statement, people would determine, the rest of the community would determine whether it was accurate or not. They would debate it until they came up with something accurate, and then somebody would go and check and see, well, yeah, that is there. That taco house is there. We don't have that. So I am going to open up the phone lines. Do you want to say hi first?
No.
Okay, let's go.
We're just going to jump in.
Let's go jump
we've
in.
already talked long
So
enough.
I am going to open up the phone lines. You call in and tell me why you think, or tell me why I'm wrong.
Say if you agree or disagree.
Right,
that
exactly.
Is there enough information included to be able to figure it out, or is there not? In the case of the Beale ciphers, there was not enough information included to ever figure out those ciphers because it was dependent upon which book it came from, and he never told you which book.
Okay, phone lines are open, 866-597-9901. Call me and tell me why you think I'm wrong.
Yeah, or right.
Or what?
Because I think you're right. So,
You got any things?
see if we have any. Jason Dent says, I think there is nothing wrong with the poem. It is just our level of understanding it. Well, of course, if our level needs to be at the same exact level as Fenn, that's never going to happen because we are not him.
That's Donna Buckholz agrees. She says, AGK Media, this poem is perfect. It took Fenn 15 years to design the poem, and Fenn said it was perfect. With that said, it is perfect. Perfect for what? It's not perfect for finding a treasure.
The treasure
exactly.
at all, or it would have been found.
It
by
may
now.
be a very nice. It may be a perfectly written poem, and it may be beautiful, independent of anything else, and it may be representative of Fenn and his life. But that's not a poem that's going to help you find the treasure. I'm sure Fenn would argue that, of course.
Yeah, well, he has for many years.
Yeah.
Still hasn't found. Nobody's still found it. So.
Okay, so nobody wants to call in and have the conversation. Come on, guys. Yeah, Jason, you disagree with me. Call in and tell me why you disagree with me. Or Donna, there are people who disagree. Call in and let's talk about it.
I'm just waiting on the next scrapbook. Scrapbook, huh? It's just a lot of recycled stuff, isn't it?
For the most part, or something that's newsworthy but not informative.
Yeah, not at all informative or helpful. There's no new information.
All right. Well,
it's like trying to figure out a cipher without knowing what book you're supposed to look in to figure out the cipher. It's like it's in a book.
yeah, even with a cipher,
There's only a bazillion books out there,
Right.
so we're supposed to figure that out.
even with a cipher, there is a key, and I know Fenn has said we're missing the key word. He's never said it was the key to a cipher, and as a matter of fact, most people believe that based on what Fenn has said, there is no cipher in the poem.
Yeah.
Hello, this is, you've reached Toby.
Did you put it on here?
You know what? I haven't. Hold on just a sec. Smartline, hold on. Can you hear me?
I can.
1,004, 1,005. Just give me 1 second.
I'm hearing you.
Yeah, hold on just 1 second. I want to make sure the audience can hear it because what happened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang up on you and I want you to call me right back, okay? Because I hadn't set up the inbound call. Can you hear me? Did you hear me? Oh, rats, now I hung up on her. Didn't mean to do that. Give me 1 second to set this up, guys. I have to make sure I'm connected.
Maybe if you showed up more than 2 minutes before the show starts.
Okay. Now you can call in and we can hear it. All right. Phone lines are open. And
Sorry.
I'm connected, so here we
There's
go.
somebody else.
There we go. Nope, not somebody else. They bailed on it. Okay, phone lines are open, and it is connected to the computer. So
It's
that we can
working
hear it.
now.
Yeah, it's working now because...
Try again. Goldilocks. Just because it hasn't been solved in 9 years doesn't mean it's not solvable. I don't think there's going to be a large influx of
Hey, you've reached
new
Toby and
ideas.
Shelley, and we're talking about what's wrong with Fenn's poem. Who's calling, and where are you calling from?
Hi, Toby. It's Jody calling from Colorado.
Hey, Jody, how are you doing? Jeep Girl Jody.
I'm doing good, but I have the volume down on my computer, so I can't hear you, but I can see your mouth moving on the screen.
Oh, it's going to be a little bit late.
So,
You should be able to hear me on the phone, though. So don't worry about that. The question...
Yeah, hi, Shelley. Hi, Toby. How are you guys today?
We're doing great, thank you. So,
Good.
what do you
I
think?
think the poem's perfect. I wish that he would give us a little bit more clues about, a little bit more things, but sounds perfect to me.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question then. If the poem is as perfect as you claim, why do you need more clues?
I think I need more clues to narrow it down. I'd like to get like in a 200 to 500 square foot area would help me out a little bit. I have too many options.
So, again, I'm going to ask, if the poem is perfect, why do you need additional information to help you narrow it down? Shouldn't it all be in the poem?
I think so, but there still has to be a little bit of mystery.
Well, no, I agree. There has to be some mystery, but is it possible that you could write a poem that was mysterious enough, but at least gave you some sense that you're making progress?
Yeah, I know. I understand what you're saying, that you wish that, there were some hints that would tell you that you got the first hint and you got the second hint and you're on to the next hint. But, yeah, I don't know. I think that once I think I get everything together, that I'm going to have that aha moment and everything will say, and then the whole poem will make sense.
And that...
I kind of imagine when Forrest was writing this poem, I think that he finally got everything down exactly the way he wanted it, and it fit everything perfectly, and it was just the icing on the cake. Nothing needed to be changed. So I think it's really specific.
The poem is really specific.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind me asking you, what is your interpretation of Begin at Where Warm Waters Halt? If you don't care to answer that, you don't have to.
Actually, I think I'm going to skip on that one. I think that that's really important. I think that's a big clue.
You think that because it's the first clue, it's a big clue, or that it's a big clue because it tells you where to go from there?
I think it's the biggest clue.
All
I
right.
think it's the number one.
Let's go back to what we were talking about. Let's assume that you've got your Where Warm Waters Halt figured out. You go there, and much to your surprise, not necessarily much to your surprise, I mean, even the little girl in India could identify the first two clues. But let's say you go to Where Your Warm Waters Halt. There is a canyon down. You follow it, and now you have to look for the home of Brown. Right? You have to have some sense of what the home of Brown is. There is
Right.
as many opinions on what the home of Brown is as there are opinions on where warm waters halt. So how do you know if you have the right home of Brown?
Right. I think that is really important, the home of Brown. I think that the first general clues are really big and really easy, and they're just general. They're not really narrowing us down into something specific. But after the canyon down, I think that's when it gets a little bit more specific. My search usually revolves around that point there, is where is the home of Brown.
All right. So here's the promise I'm going to make to the community. If I ever find, as a result of whatever little research I'm doing now, that I can absolutely and unequivocally define where warm waters halt, I will share that with the community. I will give you the starting point. I don't know necessarily that I can make the claim right now that it's in the New Mexico fishing regulations, but I'll make this promise to you right now that if I ever determine unarguably, unequivocally where warm waters halt, I will share that with the community, and everybody can rush from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're so brave. I have a hard time really sharing myself because I do believe in them, but I have no problem, speaking about other things that I think might not be off. And one thing I do know is that you've talked about that fishing regulations a couple times,
right?
And I really thought about that a lot, actually. Last year, I thought about that a lot. And I have some old maps, some old BLM maps, and, of course, most of the maps I have are Colorado, and they have warm waters on them. And so I went through and I tried to dig up some of my old fishing licenses that were actually issued when I went out to fish when I was younger, to see if it said warm water on there or warm waters. And so that was something I always wanted to kind of show you. If we ever get together, I'll have to show you my map that says warm water in Colorado. So
oh, no,
I
it does.
that,
I do not. I have done the same kind of research, and in Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana, they refer to warm water fish and warm water fisheries. They don't use the plural, and they don't use it in the same generic way that the state of New Mexico does. They don't. When New Mexico doesn't say warm waters fisheries or warm water fisheries, etc. They're very specific about it because I did the same research. But I would love the opportunity to sit down and have that conversation. So let me, before you go and before it scrolls up on my screen, Goldilocks says, that's a big promise. What if the first clue is the one and only? That's the only way I'll release it. That's the promise that I'm making. If I can identify where warm waters halt, unequivocally, unarguably, and it's the one and only, I will share that with the community.
Oh, we'll share it otherwise anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll tell you all our solves. We don't care.
I'll head off and find it for you.
That's the whole point. So now you have where warm waters halt, assuming you have where warm waters halt, sharing it with the community. And if I find the second one, and I'll probably be able to share the canyon down with you if I can unarguably and unequivocally identify where warm waters halt, I will also share the canyon down. And if I go there and I can identify
Home of Brown?
No, well, it's not far, but too far to walk. So, all right, here's the commitment that I will make on this show right now. If I can unequivocally and unarguably identify where warm waters halt, canyon down, and not far, but too far to walk, I will share those three clues with the entire community.
However, that doesn't preclude us sharing what we think they are, even if we don't have
information,
right?
Yeah, that's right. So we will continue to share. I mean, for us, you know that we're hooked on the New Mexico Game and Fish regulations, and that's where we think warm waters halt. But that's arguable, right? You can argue that. It is not unequivocal. And so we want to come back with something that is unarguable, unequivocal, and if it happens to be the New Mexico fishing regulations and I can make it unarguable, we will share that with the community.
Yeah, it's almost like we have to sometimes reverse engineer the poem and sometimes try to disprove things in order to find the things that are right to us.
Yeah. All right, ma'am. Well, thank you for calling in. It was nice to talk to you again. You have a good day.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Phone lines are open, callers. I do have some text messages. Let me see. 979, no name. Oh, Jerry from Texas. It's cute. He says, Jerry from Texas.
Well, it is tax week, isn't it?
Yeah, a little slip of the thumb there. I have the solve for the Fenn treasure and the book confirming my solve, and I can go to the treasure as soon as snow melts. Jerry, make sure you let us know when all of that happens.
And tune in tonight for your rooster video.
Got a smart line call coming in. And who's calling? Where are you calling from? And what's your argument?
Toby This is Mr. T. How are you?
Mr. T, how are you doing, sir? Nice to hear from you.
I'm good. Doing a lot better these days.
Well, good. We're happy to hear that. So, what do you think?
What was the question you was asking?
The question is, well, it's not actually a question. What I want is your opinion. I think that there's something wrong with Fenn's poem. And because there's something wrong with it, we'll never find that treasure. What do you think?
Well, I can assure you, beyond the shadow of a doubt, it's solvable. I know that firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be some big announcements coming up, but I can't tell you what.
Okay.
Been advised not to.
Mm-hmm.
Things are in the works. There's people that doesn't think I'm FOS, and I'm not. So, but I can assure you, it is solvable. It will take you right down to the square foot where you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be paying attention, and you have to think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a lot of that poem that what people don't realize actually has dual meanings. Okay?
So let me go back to my premise. The premise is that the reason the David Blaine treasure was found was that the community shared exactly what they learned along the way, because they were able to, right? They were to decipher the code in each one of the chapters. They published that, and people could validate that. How can we validate that you have the right warm waters halt in your poem?
Well, I can't tell you yet. But
Exactly.
Exactly. Thank you.
I can tell you exactly what everything means.
Yeah,
Everything
exactly.
right down. I can even tell you what some of the clues are.
Okay.
Right.
We're waiting.
But you can't share that with anyone. Is that correct?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So I think that's the issue. So here's what I'd like you guys in the room to do. I'd like anyone in the room who believes they've solved the poem as far as Mr. T has. Because here's what I'm willing to make a dollar bet on. That is, there will be no two solutions that are exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they're not exactly the same is because we have no way to confirm your
Right.
solution. There's only one way to confirm you're right, Mr. T.
Mm-hmm.
And that is for the treasure to be recovered and for that notice to be published to the world. Up until then, that's all we have.
You are correct.
Yeah, that's all we have.
You are correct.
So, what state are you calling from?
I don't want to say.
Yeah, but you can tell me what state you're calling from. I've got your area code on here.
Let's just say if you was to throw a dart and it hit the bullseye of the United States, that's where I would be.
Oh, someplace in what is that,
The bread
Nebraska?
basket.
Bread basket?
He's in the bread
Nebraska.
basket.
A little further south.
Oh, okay, all right.
He's in the
All right, sir.
Rust Belt.
Thanks for calling in. We appreciate it, and we look forward
The
to
Bible
you
Belt.
continuing to visit our chat room.
I will. Tell everybody that I will. Tell them what everything means when I can.
All right, we look forward to it.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
We got a lead searcher video for tonight.
So, answered call, we got that. Missed call. Let's see. Oh, we got a voicemail, so I'm going to play this voicemail. Ooh, long voicemail. Whoa, too long, big voicemail.
Is this George again?
Okay, no, it's not.
Oh.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to turn the phones off for just a second so that I can play this voicemail. Just give me a second, all right? Let's go back. And let's play. I got two voicemails that we want to play here, and let's see what the gentleman has to say. Oh, that's just a text. Here's the voicemail. Whoa, long one. Man, used up all 2 minutes. Let's see what we got here.
Toby, I was just checking you out this Friday. My name is Steve. I just this last week solved the first two areas of the poem without question, without doubt. I can't get there yet, but I can tell you, you have been close. And once you solve it, you'll understand that the poem is exactly how it is. I wish I could tell you more, but by way of background, I've been an investigator for almost 50 years now. And I wouldn't call you and tell you this unless I was absolutely certain and I had sifted out all the other junk. It works. It's perfect. The problem is once you solve the first two, I know you got to be boots on the ground, but even it will be difficult to catch the other clues, even if you're boots on the ground. It's not as easy as it sounds in the poem, because I can put you at the home of Brown and I can tell you where warm water's hot. It's not what you think. Okay, if you're interested in talking to me privately, I think you have my number.
Okay, well, we're not going to talk to private people, because if you're going to share your solution with us, we're going to share it with the world.
Right. So remember
But you know what I
not
think
to
we need
include
to
your...
do?
What's that?
We need to start a list of names of everybody who says, I know where it is and I'm going to go get it, in the next month or when the snow melts or what. And then at the end of the summer, we need to go over those names and check in with each of those people and see how they did on finding that treasure.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Let's see. This is a text message. He says, I have emailed Fenn regarding the guy from Australia who says he found the location of the treasure and then the treasure mysteriously disappeared. Mm-hmm. Maybe the treasure has been found and Fenn knows that it has been found. I have not heard back from him. To whomever wrote that, I'm assuming that you're watching our show, there is no clear and convincing evidence that the poem has been solved or the treasure has been recovered. And if you have evidence that indicates otherwise, let me know and I'll be happy to publish it.
I'm gonna go write it down right now. I'm gonna go get a piece of paper and start writing a list.
Okay, Steve and Mr. T so far. Okay, I'm gonna open up the phone lines again. Chasen, Younis, I see you're in the room. Give me a call and give us your thoughts. You've always thought about these things. Journeyman, this is neither last year's show or a rehash. This is something new, but it's...
It's always a rehash, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the problem with this.
It's the Fenn treasure, right?
Right.
So...
It's good.
Yeah.
All right. I guess it's very meta of us to be so aware that this is unsolvable.
Here we go. Incoming line, 832 area code. And hey, you've reached Toby and Shelley. Who are you? Where are you calling from? And what's your argument?
Hi, yes, my name is Luis and I'm from Houston, Texas.
Luis, ¿cómo estamos?
Muy bien. So, I see, Toby, I've been watching your YouTube videos for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
And you have given out a lot of good information, and I believe I see the way you think and the way you evaluate the solve and the poem, and I see why a lot of people get frustrated and think that there's something wrong with the poem.
Mm-hmm.
Even myself, I have been on this search for almost 8 months, and I did my first boots on the ground in New Mexico, and I saw one of the biggest problems was that the boots on the ground. I was like, when you do the computer research and when you do Google and you start thinking, oh my God, this is my area. But once you get over there, like you said, you put your drone up there, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
And you're really looking for a space in the dirt that is 10 inches by 10 inches by 6 inches tall. And you're thinking, it's true, there's no confirmation. But something that I guess every researcher goes through once they have their solve and they're afraid that somebody, is going to get, you say a little bit of it and you're afraid that somebody's going to find it right away.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen. You really, really have to find the spot that Forrest Fenn is talking about. And one of the things that helped me on my secondary research that I'm going to do back on June is that I started thinking, what about if I start hiding my most personal items? I mean, what is it my goal? Do I really want my most personal items to be found during my time that I'm alive? Or am I really going to make it so difficult that I want to make sure that once I'm gone, I don't care about my personal belongings because in reality, I'm not going to be able to take them with me,
Mm-hmm.
So I think the poem, it is difficult. I think the person who created it wanted to deliver a message, and I believe his message is perfectly or perfectly designed the way he thought. So in his mind, maybe it's perfect. And like you said, you brought up a really good point. It's really difficult to be able to think the same as the person who created it. And whoever finds this treasure, it has to be somebody that's able to figure out Fenn, able to figure out his his thought process and what he means by imagination. And that's one of the things that I've been putting on my new search, which I am going to say the state, which is, I believe it is in Colorado. And you know, they got confirmation from the book. I'm not going to be able to release that information yet. But out of the things that I have done with my new solve, everything that I have deciphered from the poem, I can relate it to the book. And I think one of the biggest hints that he gave out was that read the poem, read the book, but you really have to really read the poem. You have to really open all those layers up so you can understand the book and you can understand the poem. I think that's the best tip I can give everybody. And I think the poem is perfect for him, but we have to make it perfect for ourselves and be able to make sense of it in the way he did. And I think that's the difficult part.
Luis, first, let me take this opportunity to thank you for what I think is a very rational call and your thinking. I think, like a lot of us, you know there's something out there, you're interested in finding it. It's not as easy as you would like it to be or we would like it to be. But I think you've done some really good thinking in that area, and we appreciate that you've used this as a resource. We're very often not right, but we don't mind saying it just in case it causes some folks to think, and it sounds like that's what you've already done. So when do you plan to make your next boots on the ground?
So I'm definitely going on June. Maybe my birthday is on June 6th, so I'm going on June the 3rd. I'm going to stay over there all the way to my birthday, and hopefully if I do find out during my birthday, then it will be a great thing. You know something about last show that you did with Sassy? I will tell you one epiphany that happened to me. I work at as a vessel inspector at a port of Houston, and there's this crane that I've been doing inspections on that crane for a long time, and it was weird because I read the book at nighttime. I work days and nights, and I stay like 9-10 hours. So sometimes it's a really slow night, and it's really interesting how things play in your mind when you see something and you start thinking, oh, what? Wait, I did see this on the book. Let me take a look at it. And then you go to terryscan.com and you start verifying some of the stuff that Fenn has said. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you another one. A lot of the sentences that Forrest Fenn says, they're riddles, and those riddles goes a lot with the book if you know how to spot them. I will.
Real quick before you go on, I'm going to allow you to go on, but before you mean the sentences, the words that Fenn says, exclusive of the book and the poem, are in their own right riddles. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
Okay, yes. Keep going.
I'll give you a perfect one. I'll give you a perfect example. Think about the most thing that he repeats in most of the interviews, which is the 328 missions in 348 days. Mm-hmm. And then he always says about my two daughters don't know what Clark Cable or what, I don't know the name. I don't know how to say his name, but
Clark Gable.
Once you figure out, once you figure out his thought process, and then you'll be able to really identify the issues with the poem, and you're able to break it down a lot to the point where you cannot break it down no more. Mm-hmm. And then read the book, a lot of the stuff is going to start making sense.
So let's go back to first of all, again, thank you very much for what I think of as a very rational call. Secondly, let's go back to the question: is Fenn's poem not perfect, or do you think the opposite? Is it perfect?
I think for us, making it perfect is the goal. Because for him it's perfect. For us, it's imperfect because we don't know how to put the pieces together yet. Mm-hmm. So it's an imperfect puzzle until we're able to put it together.
And then perfection is achieved at the point at which someone recovers the treasure. Is that what you're implying?
Yes, because once somebody recovers the treasure, I don't know how long it's going to take for them to really release themselves because, like Sassy was saying, there's a lot of crazy people out there. And I have put a lot of thought not just on finding the treasure and solving the poem, but also what are the repercussions of having that treasure in my hands and how am I going to impact the people. But one thing for sure, I can tell you this, if I do find it, the number one thing I will do is at least let the people know, show some pictures, so like that nobody goes out there, spend their money, and put themselves at risk. I mean, that's the number one thing I would do. I don't think no lawyer would accuse me of I'm doing something wrong when I'm doing something graceful for the community, because I know a lot of people have put a lot of interest on this. Mm-hmm. But I think it's perfect for Fenn. But I think we have to be able to put those puzzles, because it's like getting a new those little pieces. I don't know if it's called jigsaw puzzles.
Yeah,
or whatever.
jigsaw puzzles.
We got to all run them, and we gotta be able to make that big picture. We gotta be able to put those pieces together and create that picture, and we'll be able to tell you, guess what, Toby? I found the treasure, but I believe that Forrest Fenn's poem was not perfect because it took me this much to figure it out. See what I mean?
I think that's a reasonable response. So, should we add you to Shelley's new list? Do you know where the treasure is?
No, I really don't know. I think, yeah, don't add me, Shelley. I think I saw, like what Susie was saying, I think I saw probably 70% of it, but I don't want to go up there until I'm really, really close by. Maybe 500, 200 feet, and I will go. But if I'm not that close, I'm not going to go.
All right. Well, good. Luis, thank you very much for a great call. Please stay in touch with us and make sure you visit our chat room and talk with the folks in there. I'm sure they'll be happy to listen to what you have to say about some of these things, okay? And whenever we have open lines and you have thoughts on the things that we're discussing, whether it's on our one afternoon shows or evening shows, please feel free to call in.
Of course.
I feel like I found a brother from another mother.
All right, brother.
Take care.
Take care.
Thanks for calling. Wow. I like that kind of call.
Okay.
Like that. So he doesn't want his name on the list just yet.
All right.
Okay,
Is
so
Steve Wayne?
I don't know.
You said Steve.
I
I don't know. Who
I
that
don't
was.
know.
Okay.
Okay, this is a text message from 850. In my opinion, this is nothing more than a pure guessing game. Maybe that's why a child has a better chance. Guess what this word means, guess what the phrase means. Then you go out and see if you're correct. No way to confirm with a poem or map. It is not a map. Maps are definitive unless we can find the key word. We tend to agree with you on those matters. Oh, there is my eldest son. Jason Michael, how are you doing today?
Hey, pretty good. How are you?
Very good, thanks. What are your thoughts on this matter?
Sharp broadcast. Hola, ¿cómo está?
Muy bien, gracias. ¿Y usted?
¿Dónde es Racha Lupa? No, you know what I think is brilliant is I don't think there's anything wrong with the poem because it's lasted as long as it has with as much intention as it has. And no one has found any obvious logical flaws. I mean, there are questionable points. There are things that people, wonder why he did this, why he did that. But no one has said, this is a chink in the armor of this poem kind of thing. And that's pretty damned incredible when you consider how many hours have been put into reading his books. And it doesn't hurt that he has a damn interesting life. I mean, compared to most of us who spend time in cubicles every day, just reading that book and that story is just filled with, so much interesting material. But the fact that it's got such a powerful poem connected to it, I think definitely lends credibility. So I don't appreciate the title of this show whatsoever.
Yes, but at least it made you think, right? That's the whole point of a matter.
Oh, you got me thinking, all right.
So, is Baby Shush home today?
He is out enjoying the zoo today. He's been asking for a couple of weeks. And so we actually got one of those family packs they offer.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to do zoo, botanical gardens, Tingley Beach, any of that stuff anytime we want to take
Oh,
them.
great.
So,
Well, let me know when you go to the botanical gardens. I'll go with you. I love it. I have an annual pass to it, and it's great. It's great photography. Every location you turn around, there's 10 photographs that you can make. You've seen a lot of them. And you are going to be at the housewarming tomorrow night?
absolutely.
Yeah,
He's such a bright, sharp, warm little kid.
Yeah.
He's always looking at me and saying, Daddy, why won't Grandpa Toby take us to Five Guys anymore? I don't know, son. I don't know.
All right, I'll make up for that somehow. I'll figure out how to make up for that somehow.
He doesn't
I'm
take
just
me.
pulling your leg.
I know.
You guys
I
have
know.
a good one.
You too. Love you.
Love you.
Son Jason. Wonderful eldest son Jason. What a good kid. I was very fortunate to have 6 really wonderful children. I was blessed. So, all right, guys, phone lines are open for another, let's say, 8 minutes so we can make a reasonable close. And then get that book.
Here are the names that we have on the list so far for I Know Where the Treasure Is, and I'm going to go get it this summer. We have Mr. T, Mark Conor, Mitzi Moore, Davio, and Steve Wayne.
Oh.
If I've missed your name, please make sure you let us know.
Give us a AGK Space Media highlight and let us know that you need to have your name on that list.
That's right.
So, okay, so we have time probably for one more phone call. I loved Louisa's call. I loved Chasen's call.
Sakar says what's wrong with the poem is there's no title and 3 lines are not 8 syllables. So he's analyzing it as a poem and not as a treasure hunt.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's helpful as well, I guess. There is no title. It's just Jamie Rodriguez. Almost seems that there's a certain aspect we're missing since some have walked right past it. Exactly.
That's kind of it. That's
right?
the point that we were trying to make at the beginning of this discussion.
I have a question. Is the same person who was within 200 feet of it, searcher who was within 200 feet of it, is it the same person who also figured out the first 2 clues and walked right on past it? Or have there been more people who have figured out the first 2 clues and walked right past it?
And never have been within 200 feet? Yeah.
Is it only one person?
So,
what do you think?
Wait.
Because they didn't listen.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on here in the room real quick. Okay. Okay, so phone lines are finished. It looks like we've got no more text messages or voicemails. Did I get that? Let me make sure I've got those. That was the emailed Fenn.
Oh, Robert Nenek wants to be on the list. I know where it's at, and I'm going to go get it.
Okay, we're going to hold your proverbial feet to the respective fires.
Mm-hmm. We're going to ask you every month, have you gone yet? Have you gone yet? Have you gone yet?
Oh, gosh.
What is that?
Well, it starts with "Hello, darling."
Oh my!
But it's a voicemail, so it might be mistranscribed. Let me just let's see.
Hey, Toby. Well, I continue to watch the.
Oh, it's our friend Joe Treasure Hunter.
Oh, Joe Treasure Hunter.
John from Northern California.
Should we add his? Oh, he can't go get it though.
No, he can't. But he says he knows where it is.
Bottom of an acid pit.
Yeah.
And he can't get
John, Northern California. Where are some of the known areas that others have searched? Wow. John, the Rio Grande River, which Fenn, John, that's a big question. I'm sorry. If you go to the forums, if you go to our YouTube channels, go to the forums, especially Dale Neitzel's blog, because literally there have been hundreds of places that people have searched repeatedly, not on their own, but the areas have been searched a number of times by folks, and there's just so many of them that I'm not sure I could just list them all out that easily. I can tell you we've searched the Rio Chama, the Rio Grande.
I think we need to do some new videos on our solutions for the places we've been and haven't found the treasure.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. That way people keep asking. Because we're in New Mexico, so I'm sure a lot of people who don't live in the search states would like to know, where have you been?
Yeah.
Where have you looked? That you didn't find it. And I'm sure Cynthia would also be on board to share those places that she searched and didn't find it.
Maybe we could have a panel show.
Well, yeah, if people had enough time to do the homework, because, then they need to, explain.
Where the panel show is, where have you searched?
And why did you search there? What was your clues?
And you didn't find it. Maybe we'll do a call-in show.
Yeah.
Maybe next time.
Yeah.
Where have you searched? This is Jerry from Texas. I have the solve for the Fenn. Jerry from Texas.
Jerry from Texas.
I have the solve for the Fenn treasure, and the book confirms my solve, and I can go to the treasure as soon as the snow melts. Jerry from Texas wants to be on the list.
All righty.
Inbound call. Last one for the day. Let me take it real quick. Hey, you've reached Toby and Shelley. Who's calling, and where are you calling from?
This is Usul in Arizona.
Hey, Usul, how are you doing? Do me a favor and turn off your background noise so it doesn't create an echo.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead. What do you think about the poem?
Basically, I think that it's exactly what he designed it to be, but it has so many references embedded in it that that's what makes it difficult to suss out. So depending upon what category or word you're using to try to interpret it, it shifts the language in the sentences quite a bit. So if you just try to interpret it with linguistics, you get a pretty straightforward message. And then if you try to add, like, let's say the fishing references, music, automotive, the books, geography, it's just hard to get that last 5%.
Mm-hmm. So somebody brought up a point earlier in the chat room about the time frame. We've been at this. I say we, as in the community. The community has been at this since 2010. We're about to go into our 9th summer session looking for this treasure, or maybe our 8th. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
There have been, by Fenn's estimate, 350,000 boots on the ground searches. Everyone not returning with the treasure. There have been hundreds, as I said earlier, in response to that one comment, there have been hundreds of locations searched. And there is still, after 9 years and tens of thousands of searchers having conversations relating to this matter, there is no standardized definition of any of what we think of in the clues in the poem. Right?
Right.
Would you agree with that assessment?
I would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah. So is Fenn's poem perfect for a search that's supposed to last within his lifetime? Or is it perfect for a search that's supposed to last beyond his lifetime?
I think it's, I think that he thought this would be solved much sooner. So when I watch his videos, and I've read the book, and the posts and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
when I see those things, and I agree with your last two callers completely,
Mm-hmm.
but he's giving us 95% usable information in each broadcast, if you will, whether it's a book or an interview or a blog post. If you take the language, I call them word sets, and you
Mm-hmm.
apply them to those different areas, it's almost like put tab A in slot B,
Mm-hmm.
but and it's not jumbled in the sense that you're trying to put nonsensical stuff together. There's themes that run through it that would be like 75% directions. I have no idea where it is. I would need to, get that other 5% differential. But he's definitely giving us enough in every single media that he uses to solve this. For instance, there is a two-word phrase that I found in the book that is pulled directly from one of his videos that corresponds to a physical location, which is, in my opinion, like I said, I don't know where it is, undeniably part of this.
Uh-huh.
But without that other 5%, it doesn't do you any good. And the other thing is language is very, very tricky. So,
and he's a master. He's a master of the tricky use of language.
Right, and words can overlap.
Mm-hmm.
So just like the word gone can be go, one, go.
Right.
It's very, very difficult, and I found multiple languages in the book, and you know Spanish. So if you overlay all these things, even if I switch between the different themes that I have found, I still am getting like 75% directions.
Mm-hmm. Directions
So
as
I
in
don't think-
directions as in instructions, or directions as in compass vectors.
As instruction.
Okay, all right.
But I haven't really applied like the the north, east, south, because of course an S can be south and any at the end of a word can be northeast.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't applied any of those because I don't know where it is. But using the word sets that I'm talking about, he says, let's say, go to this location, do this, this will happen, and then this will happen, and then you do this. That type of language. And it's obviously more rudimentary because, you're decoding something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely in there. It's definitely solvable. I'm just not smart enough to do it.
Yeah. Well,
But
that's kind of the thing.
I see enough of it. It's going to take someone that's pretty intelligent to pull this off, and someone that is multifaceted, that has either done all the research in all these areas or has had enough life experience that they've seen all these different things. So like, Spanish, so right off the bat, when you're cruising through this, you're, flipping words from Spanish to English,
Mm-hmm.
whereas I would have to Google the majority of those. Or if it's a French word, the same thing. You have to like flip the language.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because my first failed search was on the Chama River below El Vato Dam, and El Vato is the Spanish word for ford, which was who was his Spanish teacher. So,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, that's how I ended up in Chama. Didn't find the treasure. Usul, thank you for calling in. Great call. So let me ask you the question, and you need to give me an answer in 5 words or less. What's wrong with Fenn's treasure poem?
Nothing.
Great. All right, sir. Thanks for calling in. We look forward to hearing from you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
Did you erase that?
Where? Which one?
Rude Rick needs to be banned.
Bye-bye.
All right. So closing up the phone lines. You've been on for an hour.
Yeah.
And
Okay, phone lines are closed.
no racist is right, Lydia. We don't allow attacking of any kind in our chat rooms. And, just don't attack people. Don't attack us on other places in the internet either, because we'll see it. and we don't put up with it. Okay? We have boundaries, and we enforce our boundaries. So anyway, on that note, we're going to see you again this evening, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. We will do our Fandango show, and we'll have all of our fun music and videos on tonight's show, and we'll be reading all your emails, text messages, and voicemails, and taking your calls once again. So if you have a thought throughout the day that you want us to address this evening, please make sure you text that to us or send us an email, and we will make sure to get to it this evening.
And the text numbers and email addresses are right above us here, scrolling past you, so you'll always have that available to you.
If you would like to be added to this list, let me just read it real quickly for you. These are the people who say they know where the treasure is and they're going to go get it this summer, as soon as it's safe to go, or as soon as they have vacation, or whatever that may be. We have Mr. T, Mark Conor, Mitzi Moore, Davio, Steve Wayne, Robert Nenek, Jerry from Texas, and Imagination of Innocence says he's not going till 2020, so we'll have him at the bottom of the list, because that's a year from now.
So if you want to be added to the I know where it is and I'm going to get it this summer list, make sure you send us a text message to 866-597-9901. Okay, we're a little bit over our time right now, so
All right. So thank you so much for being here today, for all your great questions and comments, and for your phone calls and texts. And we will see you again this evening for AGK Media. I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Younis. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you tonight at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.